As we heard in the general debate today, we live in a time where fundamental human rights are being increasingly contested and democratic principles undermined. And the gravity of the situation was very rightly stressed in many of the interventions today. Concrete problem-solving ideas were also put forward to do something about it. And I think in our outcome documents, there are excellent examples of concrete decision-making. And I will very shortly highlight some of the key decisions. First, we express full support to Ukraine and the Ukrainian people and the principles for a just peace, laid out in President Zelensky's peace formula. We agreed that without accountability, there can be no lasting peace. And to reaffirm the need for a legal response for all victims and for Ukraine, we have established the groundbreaking enlarged partial agreement on the register of damage caused by the aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine. We welcome international efforts to hold to account those responsible for war crimes and to establish a special tribunal for the crime of aggression. And we demand that all civilians forcibly transferred or unlawfully deported to the territory of the Russian Federation, in particular children, will immediately be released by the Russian government. Number two, we have adopted the Reikiavik principles for democracy. And that reflects our firm conviction that democracy remains the key to ensuring peaceful, prosperous, and free societies. And the 10 principles touch, among other things, on encouraging democratic participation, with special attention to young people, ensuring the freedom of expression, and the full and equal participation in political and public life for all, not least for women and girls. And third, we have decided to considerably strengthen our work on the human rights aspects of the environmental crisis based on the political recognition of the right to a clean, healthy, and sustainable environment, which is in line with the UN resolution and the Committee of Ministers' recommendation. And for this purpose, we will initiate the Reykjavik process to make the environment a visible priority for the organization. And we encourage the establishment of a new intergovernmental committee, the Reykjavik Committee on Environment and Human Rights. And finally, and this was stressed by so many, we stress the fundamental importance of the execution of judgments made by the European Court of Human Rights in accordance with the Convention system, and we reject high-level attacks on the rights protected by the Convention and the judgments of the Court. I am convinced that all these decisions will have a significant impact on the work of the Council and on the lives of the people in the Member States. However, I will not say more. I first and foremost would like to emphasize that the participation in this summit really shows the dedication that both leaders and all the committees in Strasbourg are showing to this very important project, the Council of Europe, and its important role in these times that we are living. Dennis.
Dear Catherine, dear journalists, excellencies, friends, partners, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I am grateful for participation in this historical event, Reykjavik Summit of the Council of Europe. I sincerely thank all of our partners, Madam Secretary General, and especially the Presidency of Iceland, which was able to organize and successfully hold such a meaningful forum. Today, Europe faces extraordinary challenges in the face of the Russian Federation full-scale, barbarian and brutal aggression against Ukraine. This aggression is an affront to all our values and principles and to the foundation of the European architecture, which was built to avoid a repetition of the atrocities of the Second World War. I am convinced that in these dark times for our continent, the organization's unwavering commitment to these values and principles is more important than ever. We are all convinced that international justice must provide its ability to punish the criminal and restore justice. The aggressor state, all international criminals, from the highest leadership to the common soldier, must be held accountable for their crimes. Everyone realizes that instead of extensive discussions about peace, we would need clear guarantees of non-repetition of aggression. This is exactly what the 10 steps peace plan presented by Ukraine and my President Volodymyr Zelensky is aimed at. We have a clear action plan, so now is the time for its implementation. The establishment of the register of damages caused by the aggression of the Russian Federation against Ukraine is, without doubt, a historic decision that will allow us to begin the process of establishing justice. A clear Council of Europe summit message in support of further efforts towards the establishment of special tribunal to punish Russian political and military leadership for the crime of aggression is extremely important. By concluding my statement, I would like to thank all the friends of Ukraine for the effective manifestation of solidarity and wish the next Latvian presidency every success. Thank you so much, dear Catherine, dear Maria, ministers. Thank you so much.
Maria.
Thank you very much, Catherine, and good afternoon to everyone. Actually, before starting with the content of what we agreed here, I would like to warmly thank you, Catherine, personally, but also Tordis and all the teams here in Reykjavik, excellent team, you, Ragnhildur, and others in Strasbourg, and all those who really worked diligently that we can now be in front of you and say how happy we are that, A, we decided on the summit. The summit is very important for the moment we live through, but also a good timing for the summit, while unfortunately the war of aggression in Ukraine still continues, but where we are taking, the important decisions in order to end this war, in order to deter those who are perpetrating crimes to continue to do so, but also to prepare for any future that some deterrents in the documents that we have prepared for the summit will work their way, that the things don't go this way as they did with this. But let me say that this summit was really needed at this pivotal moment in history. The Russian Federation's brutal, illegal, and ongoing aggression against Ukraine has fractured democratic security on our continent, democratic security that is upheld by this organization's common standards in human rights, democracy, and the rule of law. The current war of aggression is the most extreme example of the broader problem of democratic backsliding. So Reykjavik was intended as an opportunity for our member state to give the Council of Europe the clarity, direction, and support required to stop that backsliding, to put it in reverse, and to ensure that Europeans' rights are protected in every aspect of their lives, as it was meant when the Council of Europe was established back in 1949. So our continent's leaders have seized this opportunity. I also, from my side, would like to thank for such a large, important presence here in Reykjavik, because that also gives more power, more inspiration, and more, if you want, more power to our organization to seize important challenges that we are facing, but with some of the decisions taken at this summit, I think we are better equipped to have that. So let me start with the Reykjavik Declaration that the leaders have agreed. This is an admirably direct and rightly ambitious part of the document. It includes a clear recommitment to European values and standards that will be heard in the parliaments, administrations, courts throughout our continent. The European Convention on Human Rights must be implemented. This is something that not only me, but a number of us keep repeating, and that the final judgment of the European Court of Human Rights must be executed as an unconditional obligation. So the Reikiavik principles of democracy provide a new means by which to measure the health of our democracies and a new level of engagement to cure any ills that may emerge. Support for a revised agreement on the European Union's accession to the European Convention moves us closer than ever to completing Europe's human rights architecture. And there will be action to ensure that the continued rise of new technologies, notably artificial intelligence, and the gathering storm of environmental degradation and climate change are addressed from a human rights perspective, ensuring that our timeless principles address the new and evolving challenges of our age. And while there are many other specific and important pledges, I want to finish with the one that weighs so heavily on our hearts and minds. It is not possible to capture in words the shock and horror that we feel about what continues to happen in Ukraine. But we can express our solidarity and our support through concrete commitments, and I hope, Dennis, that we are on the right way, and we intend to continue to be on your side as long as it takes. The Reykjavik Declaration makes clear that must be done so that the rights of those Ukrainian children abducted by the Russian Federation that already were mentioned by Catherine. Indeed, the rights of all Ukrainian children are respected wherever they may be on our continent. It also lays some of the foundations required to build a sustainable peace. There can be no justice without accountability. I think we repeated that time and time again, and I think for a good reason, because we certainly all wish for peace. I'm sure that no one here would wish to be part of the war, but when the war happens, and of course certainly it was not intended, neither provoked by Ukraine, then we all must work for peace, for the just peace, and accountability is absolutely the most important part to get there. It certainly lays foundations required to build a sustainable peace, and the Council of Europe will establish or is establishing a register of damage. This morning we started with signatures to support Ukrainians by recording the losses incurred by Russian crimes, and this is vital for any future compensation mechanism, as it was again rightly mentioned. So our organization has the skills and expertise to deliver the register, and the work has begun. Thank you very much.
And for this.
Thank you. I will be short. As our parting gift to the Committee of Ministers, I would like to present you, Edgars, with this gavel, the hammer of Thor, carved by the Icelandic artist Sigga á Grund. It is carved after the original design of Ásmundur Sveinsson, just as the gavel gifted by Iceland to the UN General Assembly in 1952. It, depicting a Viking praying for peace, was inspired by the formation of Icelandic democracy in the 10th century. It bears in Icelandic an inscription meaning society must be built on the pillars of law. It is a quote from the ancient Icelandic text of law, and the gavel is a symbol of order. I hope it will serve as a reminder of the important decisions made here and inspire you in your work to come. Inside the foundation there is a secret compartment. I have placed a small note inside the compartment from me to you, Edgars, my dear friend. When Latvia hands its chairmanship over in 6 months, you can also use this secret compartment for a small message than for Dominic from Liechtenstein. Thank you.
Edgar, please.
Thank you. I'll open that compartment just a couple of seconds after this press conference is over. Dear Prime Ministers, Secretary General, dear Tordis, I just want to congratulate really both Iceland as the presidency and also Secretary General and her team for excellent organization and excellent discussion of this summit. But unfortunately, someone has to work now. And that's the presidency of the Committee of Ministers that we are going to chair for next 6 months. And one of our priorities, the Latvian presidency priorities, will be implementation of the decisions of this summit. Also, implementation of the reform process of the Council of Europe. We do understand that we undertake this task in a very challenging time. The Council of Europe, which is actually older than the European Union, older than many organizations that we have, plays important and critical role when it comes to safeguarding democracy, human rights, and the rule of law. We have seen how those principles have been tarnished by Russia, by the Russian aggression against Ukraine. We do understand that some of the decisions, like the establishment of the Register of Damages, needs to be implemented. And we are going to work with all our friends and partners in the Council and also outside of the Council with our Ukrainian friends to actually make sure that this instrument is efficient. Let me also say that accountability is going to be very high on the agenda of our presidency. We believe that Russia must pay for damages caused by its aggression, but also individuals at the highest leadership of Russia must be held accountable of what they have done to Ukraine, to Ukrainian people. And definitely we will be continuing working also with other international organizations, with the member states of the Council to make this happen. When it comes to our priorities, I've already touched upon some. Let me just put them in some structural order. First of all, strengthening democracy and the rule of law. Second, promotion of freedom of expression, safety of journalists and organizations' digital agenda. And third, advancement of the Council of Europe reform process. We are committed to the principles of transparency, visibility and efficiency in our work as the presidency of the Committee of Ministers. Also, let me say that we will be addressing the situation that the citizens of the Russian Federation still work in different structures of the Council of Europe. We are ready to work in close cooperation with the Secretariat, but we believe that this is not an acceptable situation and we will have to find the solution. Finally, well, we are not going to make so great event as here in Reikiavik, but 17 events under the Latvian presidency are going to take place in Riga, Latvia, as well as in Strasbourg. We are going to host Ministers of Justice in September in Riga. And also, let me assure you that we will be trying to be as efficient, as good as our Icelandic predecessors, so that the next presidency, Liechtenstein, has even the higher mark. And now I'm going to read that message, so.
In the not-so-secret compartment. So we have a few minutes for questions, and we have two people here with microphones.
I want to ask first that you state your name and the news outlet that you work for. And the first question goes to the gentleman there sitting in the very front.
Yeah, I want to prepare the foreign guest here. I will ask the question in Icelandic, if that's okay.
Okay. Ef hún til okkar, þá má
If you want to have the translation. So, I'm Heimir Pétursson from Channel 2, but I'm asking the question for the whole Icelandic team here, for RÚV and for Morgunblaðið also. Katrín, það eru 6 ríki sem undirrituðu ekki yfirlýsinguna í dag. Hvaða þýðingu hefur það fyrir yfirlýsinguna sjálfa og síðan fyrir þau 2 NATO-ríki sem ekki skrifuðu undir? Verður það tekið upp innan NATO? Hvaða þeirra afstöðu varðar að skrifa ekki undir þessa yfirlýsingu? Og eins hitt að hvað stendur hæst, ég veit að þú ert búin að fara vel yfir það hérna, en hvað stendur hæst upp úr þessu fundi að þínu mati þegar upp staðið? Takk fyrir.
Takk fyrir, ég ætla þá að fá svar á íslensku. Eins og kom fram svo sem í mínu máli þá það ekki sjálfgefið að öll ríkin myndu skrifa undir þessa yfirlýsingu á þessum fundi. Það sem hefur hins vegar gerst að yfirgnæfandi meirihluti ríkjanna skrifar undir, sem í raun og veru frábær niðurstaða og eins og ég segi vel flest af þessum stærri ríkjum gera það. Það var viðbúið að einhver ríki myndu ekki skrifa undir, þau kunna hafa ýmsar ástæður fyrir því. Einhver ríki munu skrifa undir en eiga eftir að fara í gegnum þau mál í sínum heimalöndum. Þannig að við teljum að þessi árangur hér í dag með þessum undirskriftum sé í raun og veru langt umfram það sem við gátum einu sinni gert okkur væntingar þegar við lögðum af stað í þetta verkefni sem hefur auðvitað verið flókið en markar algjör tímamót þegar kemur að því að skilgreina ábyrgðarskyldu Rússa gagnvart þeim voðaverkum sem þeir hafa unnið í Úkraínu. Þannig að við teljum árangurinn góðan og við teljum að fleiri eftir að bætast við í þennan hóp. Hvað varðar það sem ber hæst á fundinum, það auðvitað þessi stjórnarskrá. Það auðvitað þessi skýra yfirlýsing samstöðu með Úkraínu sem við sammælumst hér á þessum fundi, en síðan auðvitað líka verið að senda mjög skýr skilaboð annars vegar hið lýðræðislega fyrirkomulag sem við teljum að skipti miklu máli að efla og svo auðvitað í fyrsta sinn verið að ræða tengsl umhverfis og mannréttinda.
Thank you. Prime Minister, can I just ask you to sum up, because the question was in Icelandic, in English.
I thought we were translating.
The main outcome of the meeting.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were translating to people.
It didn't work.
It didn't work. Okay, that's very inconvenient.
Interference.
You want me to repeat the whole answer in English? Okay.
The main outcome of the meeting.
Okay. Concerning the registry, it was foreseeable that not every country would sign. We have a great majority of countries signing, which is really far above our expectations in the beginning when we started this project. Some countries still need to have some internal processes before they sign the damage registry. So we think it's actually an extremely positive result. Concerning the main outcome of the meeting, apart from a very strong solidarity with Ukraine, we think this very clear message on democracy and the Reikiavik principles are a very important step. And then also we are addressing maybe for the first time really the interaction between human rights and the environment and preparing intensive work in that direction.
Thank you. And if it wasn't clear, this press conference takes place in English. The gentleman in the blue jacket there.
Thank you a lot. Niklas Zimmermann from German FAZ. My question goes to Mrs. Secretary General Pejčinović Burić. As you mentioned in your speech, and it's also mentioned in the declaration, how can this summit lead to a better enforceability of the rulings of the European Court of Human Rights, also regarding cases like political prisoners in Turkey or that draft law about migration in the United Kingdom? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it was clear that it is an obligation and there is no exception. There is no a la carte way of implementing, executing the judgments of the court. If you noticed in the declaration, it was clear that for the good record on execution, we need a political will of member states, so I would like to insist on that. And my assumption is by adhering to the declaration that that leaders adopted today, this political will exists. Now, of course, we need to work out the system. We already have quite a comprehensive system of how we oversee the execution of judgment. This is the role of the role of the Committee of Ministers, but we certainly need to lift it up. So we were very glad that this particular item, and it was very high on my agenda when we were discussing what should be in the declaration. So the implementation of the convention and including execution of judgments is the highest priority, because this is where the credibility of willingness to really implement the basic human rights and freedoms by our member states. So I expect that this political will that is behind the declaration will help us in the Committee of Ministers and in the member states concerned to do that in speedier way. But, it hasn't been such a case, and there can be a moment where we say there is no execution of the judgments. For some specific and difficult cases, it may take some time, but there is no such a thing as non-execution. So.
We have time for one more question, which goes to the gentleman there.
Hello, my name is Sergey. I'm from Ukraine. I have a question about accountability, both to my Prime Minister and to the future head of the Council of Europe, Mr. Reikiavik. We know that some countries did not support, unfortunately, accountability of Russian political and military leadership, and one of these countries even has been public with that. It's Serbia. As they said that they are against. I assume, and I have a ground to believe that it's not the only country of the Council of Europe that still does not support that accountability. What are you going to do with that? Because I think that in an organization like Council of Europe, not supporting that, it goes quite contrary to the principles of that organization. I would like my Prime Minister to say what does Ukraine want to do with these countries that still sticks to that position. Unfortunately, some of them are our, let's say, friends, as we believe. And Mr. Reikiavik, what are you going to do during your presidency in the Council of Europe? Maybe you feel that you can do something with tribunal, with Council of Europe, I don't know, mechanisms. Thank you very much to both. And maybe someone else would like to comment.
Thank you so much. So I should begin that today and yesterday we have really historical event during which we have roundtables, discussions, and we discuss the main principles of the Council of Europe, principles of rule of law and principle of accountability of aggressor, acting aggressor of Russian Federation and potential aggressors in the future. So our aim is to begin and to build a new global security system in which potential aggressor will know that he will be accountable. So this creation of this register of damages is just first step. The next steps, it's creation of commission, it's creation of compensation fund, and in the end of the day, creation of international tribunal where all the criminals will be punished. And I'm sure that during Latvian presidency, we discussed this with Mr. President of Latvia, we will discuss, and I hope we will solve the issue of creation of international tribunal. So it was one of the main points of our discussions. From point of view that there is discussion between members of the Council of Europe, so it's natural that different countries has different position. So the main issue is that today more than 45 countries, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe.
40?
45? Around 45? Well,
45 countries for today sign this declaration, and this is just plus one.
Plus one. It's just about minutes ago.
Okay, 46. So the situation is changed from minute to minute, from hour to hour. So I'm sure that in the end of the day, all the world will know and understand who is aggressor, who is suffering during this aggression, and how to solve this problem. Because this is the first unfortunately, this is the first dramatic experience since the time of Second World War. And now we all together create new mechanisms, new international mechanisms for punishment of such a kind of aggression. Thank you so much.
Edgar, would you like to comment shortly?
Yes, just 2 points. Number one, it's normal for democratic organizations, be it national or international, that sometimes views are differing. Otherwise, it would be the kind of organization of authoritarian states and no use of talking about democracy, human rights, and rule of law. But here, definitely, we do believe that it is time to discuss internally in the Committee of Ministers and to convince those countries that are not yet sure about joining. As Secretary General said, the numbers of supporters of the Register of Damages is growing by a minute as we speak. I understand the last country that just said that it's supporting and joining is Mexico, so there is a wider support than only in Europe. And we will be working to widen this support and also to get to the practical implementation. Second, yes, indeed, we are also looking at the broader issues of accountability. As you probably know, we are discussing some models of how to create this special tribunal for the crime of aggression, but this is not going to be created under the auspices of the Council of Europe. This is a bit different discussion. We have, I think, progressed quite well, and we are also going to discuss it further with Ukraine, both in our capacity as the presidency, how the Council can help but not create that tribunal. That is better to do at the UN level or in a kind of internationalized way. So from that point of view, there is a very good mechanisms, expert community in the Council that can help also to work on the accountability issue, but the Council is not going to be the body that is creating the kind of international tribunal. That is something that we are going to have in a bit different format. I hope that, as Mr. Prime Minister of Ukraine just has said, that by the end of the year we could be able also to move there. Thanks.
Now, thank you very much. This press conference is over. Thank you all very much for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.